Good afternoon. Welcome back to another episode of Mind Split Cafe. Matt, I'm super excited about today because we actually have someone that has been featured on our magazine here
Yep.
today.
Yep.
I- I'm
Mm,
I don't know
excited.
I don't know who you're talking about, but I know that the back cover of the Mind Split Cafe issue is fire. So yeah.
Yes, I'm excited. We have Miss Lisa, and Miss Lisa has actually been on an episode before.
Yep.
But just in case they have not seen that episode, Lisa, do you want to introduce yourself and kind of give them an idea of what we're going to be talking about today?
sure. Hi, everybody. My name is Lisa Hart Anderson. I am a woman in recovery from alcohol addiction, a little over 6 years. And I also am a life coach and a recovery coach. So my job, so to speak, is to help others on their
Yeah.
path. Uh, and whether I do it in a coaching manner or a friendly manner, that's really a passion of mine. And I thought it would be really interesting to talk about the concept of it's not an excuse, it's an explanation. And with that being said, it's something that has helped me in my recovery. I do the work, and I've continued to do the work for over 6 years. And it is something that, for lack of better words, I keep in my back pocket.
Yeah. So the
Okay.
the phrase is um it's not an excuse, it's an
Um,
explanation. So let's dissect that and kind of break it down to where it sounds relatively easy to understand,
uh-huh.
but let's break it down for us. Like, give us an example of when you use this phrase and kind of the context of why it's an explanation versus being an excuse.
Sure. And I learned this along the way. And a lot of us in recovery struggle a tremendous amount with shame and guilt.
Yeah, every
And
day. Yeah.
every
100%.
and a lot of people, the pain of it is so severe that they can often relapse, right? Working with a therapist that I had, she presented this to me in such a way that, when we are in active addiction, we tend to do things that are uh, not so great, for lack of better words. Our moral compass is off, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
uh, it's not only off, it's like spinning with absolutely no direction of where.
Mm-hmm.
And what I have learned is the mistakes that I've made, and I have made plenty, and things that were not even morally who I am along the way, because addiction will do that. You'll do things uh, and behave in a way that isn't who you are to your core. So, with that being said, we tend to reflect a lot of it on our past mistakes. And working with my therapist, she said, Lisa, that was not who you morally are, right? Your addiction kind of hijacked your brain, you know, and
Yeah.
all the brain's going wonkadoodle from because that's a technical term.
Yeah, wonkadoodle.
Wonkadoodle. Uh,
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to start
and,
using that one.
Yeah.
and basically, because our brain is not acting or is not wired correctly during active addiction, we do make these mistakes. So it's an explanation of why our behavior is off the rails or not recognizable to us as humans. So making the mistakes that we have, it's not really saying that, oh, you're an alcoholic, you're excused from your horrible behavior. No, that's not what it is. We need to take ownership and accountability for that. What it means is when we're in active addiction and the brain is not wired correctly and our moral compass is spinning, it makes sense and it's an explanation as to why our behaviors might be the way that they are.
Might be chaotic at that moment because your brain is spinning like crazy, out of control. Right.
Right. And you're making decisions. And like I said, whether they're either conscious decisions or not, we're doing things that aren't really who we are to the core. And I think for me, forgiving myself has taken years and years to do. And I'm still working on it. And because I don't recognize that person, I don't even know who that person was.
Yeah.
And when you're an addict, it explains why we do things because of the brain. Doesn't excuse it. It doesn't mean you're off the hook.
I was gonna ask. That was gonna be a question.
Not a
Is like,
permission slip.
I get that. I get what you're saying, but I guess I'm trying to play devil's advocate too.
Sure.
Does that necessarily mean, okay, I have a pass for behaving in a certain way, or, like, I've got substance, addiction, and that was my brain spinning. So you gotta
let me off.
you gotta let me off the hook for that one. Like, I didn't mean to throw the furniture through the plate glass window, that type of thing, so.
No, absolutely not. And I hear what you're saying. What it does is when we get our brain in that healing pattern, we recognize the mistakes that we made. The biggest apology and the truest form of apology is a change of behavior. And
Agreed.
so
Very true.
So that goes hand in hand. No, it absolutely doesn't excuse. And I still carry guilt, and I work on it. And some days, 6.5 years sober, something will be a little bit triggering, and I'll go back there. And I'm getting better at releasing the guilt and recognizing where it comes from. I'm connecting dots that I wasn't able to in the very beginning.
Yeah.
So it does not excuse. It does not mean you're off the hook. It does not mean that you can be like, I'm sorry that I did that, but my brain wasn't working. It cannot be like that.
You can't hold it against me because I was drinking.
Right. And it's the reason why I wanted to bring up, it's not an excuse, it's an explanation, is it's a simplistic sentence that is so powerful and so meaningful and can really help people pause in their recovery, tap into it, maybe connect some dots, and allow themselves to process and forgive to the best of their ability.
Yeah, that's when I went to inpatient treatment, I had a counselor. So my now ex, and at the time my wife, would tell me I'm a bad person, and it really beat me down. And that was brought up during like our family day when we were all talking about it. And it's very similar to what he told me. It was, you're not a bad person. You're doing bad things. And it's kind of the similar thing. Like, it's not who you are and it's not who you've been, but because of X, Y, and Z or your addiction, you have done bad things. And then it kind of falls back on like the saying that addiction is not a moral failing. It's a brain disease. It makes your brain sick, rewires it chemically, structurally, and it brings you to a point that that's not who you are.
Absolutely. And I couldn't agree with you more that, we feel so bad about ourselves in active addiction that we continue to use to not feel like a bad person. And until we're out of it and we have time for our brain to start healing and we're doing the work, then then you can start connecting the dots. Chris, I was going to ask you something. I completely and utterly do not know the person that I was in active addiction. I'm curious if you sometimes have those moments of like, who the hell was that?
Yes, 100%. I think back, I do, and I'm sure most people in general, whether you've been in addiction or not, you think back to things that you've done in the past, whether they're good, bad, or indifferent. But in our situation, I look back at the things that I did, and it's like, I can't believe I did that shit. Like it makes me cringe to think of some of the things that I did.
And if I can speak on it, because obviously y'all are both in recovery, I happen to not be, right? But just like what you said, even if you aren't, in that, I look back on my life like 10, 15 years ago, and I'm like, who was I back then? Who was
Yeah.
I when I was in high school? Who was I when I was in, in early 20s? Like, I look at things and there's things that I regret or
Yeah.
things that I've said to people or the way I've treated people. Like, I don't know why that happened to be at that moment, what those, I don't recall what those circumstances are
Youth.
in the moment. Youth, probably, right?
Yeah. That
But I,
could
I
be a
don't think
part.
that it just falls on the shoulders, or that weight falls on that, or that burden falls on just someone that's in recovery, or
I
Yeah.
hear you.
seeking treatment, or whatever the case is. You can be an addict or not. You weren't the same person 15 years ago or 10 years ago or 6.5 years ago as you were today, and you won't be the same person you're going to be tomorrow as you were yesterday, so
100%. And with that being said, in any healthy mind, we're allowed to change. We're allowed to change at, from day to day. What may work for us and what we kind of think today may change a little bit tomorrow. And that is okay. It's a level of acceptance that we have to allow ourselves to have, not only for ourselves, but for others. But you're right, man. I think the older we get, the wiser we get, and we can reflect and go, huh? And how am
yeah,
I still alive? No,
Yeah.
yeah.
regardless if you're in recovery or not, like, what I did what in college, I did what in high school,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
I just,
Agreed.
for an example, is like where I went to school. It was along the border of Texas, right? McAllen, Reynosa, and 18
So
years old, you're,
956.
yeah, the 956, right? And so when you're away from home for the first time and you're in college, but you're 18 years old, like the cool thing was Friday nights, you hop in a car. This is pre-Uber.
Mhm.
You hop in a car and with a bunch of friends, and you drive over to Mexico, and you party over there,
Yes.
and it's like, it was like $10 cover and all you can drink. So you were good as a college student because we were all broke, right?
Oh,
But
yeah.
then what I feel is crazy, and I reflect on it, is that, one, I know Mexico wasn't the same type of energy that it is now, right?
Yeah, it was
But
different
at the
back
same but at the same time, you were in a foreign country, you
Yeah,
know, and you
I
are
do.
driving the streets of said foreign country. And then on two, you are trusting your life with someone that says they will be the DD for that night, but you're not really keeping up with, are they drinking or are they not? So you're just kind of like, I'm going to hop in a car in a foreign country and I'm going to be okay with it. And I think I'm going to be able to get back and go get Whataburger when I get home. Right.
Mhm.
And so there's so many factors and variables, like, okay, maybe the DD was DD, but the other person driving that car over there that's about to run into you wasn't,
Right.
so I just look back on decisions that I put myself in, and I was like, what were you thinking at that time? Like,
That's like
why?
Yeah, that's like the Superman complex or like the Invincible complex. I mean, I grew up in the town that Matt was talking about, and like that's literally the only at that time that was the only thing you could do was
Yeah.
go to Mexico and drink or have a house party. And I mean, shit, in high school we would during lunch we would go to Mexico and have Coronas and tacos and come back like it was nothing. And like Matt was
Of
saying,
course.
it's like nothing's gonna happen to me. And
Well,
I
remember,
know exactly what Matt was talking about.
I would love for like a doctor to tell me if this is right, because the age keeps changing. For men, that frontal lobe not quite developed until about 28. So maybe give you guys yourself some grace. It was
Yeah.
25 and then it kept bumping up. But if it's wrong, any of the doctors that be like, oh no, it's not 28. It's younger or whatever. But that is, you have to give yourself some grace, and women and girls mature a little bit faster, but still making dumbass mistakes.
There was,
And
I mean, there was, to your point, and I'm not saying you're wrong, but to your point, there were females like
Oh,
female
yeah.
athletes that were in that said car, all riding with us to go to the club, right? So it
Oh,
wasn't like the girl, it wasn't like it was just a car full of dudes that was going to Mexico, you
no,
know?
no, no.
So
I am totally agreeing with you. I was doing that kind of shit too. We would go to Nogales, or fake
yeah,
ID, or we didn't have a fake ID. You transfer a hand stamp to get into the club.
Yeah.
You drive down. I mean, again, here we go. This was college days. Like, how am I still alive? And
yeah,
I say it so off the cuff and so tongue in cheek, but like, and then when I was a full blown addict, I can still say, and how am I alive? You know,
Yes.
so I just brought up the brain. I have sons. Okay, I don't have daughters, so I pay real attention when I start seeing that emotional maturity um progress. But no, I mean, let's face it, we were all stupid in high school and college.
yeah. No, we
Yeah.
were. I mean, it was, yeah, we definitely, not the brightest. And it
And
goes
what,
back to like that inferior complex, that
yeah,
Superman syndrome,
it's not going to
where you
happen to
feel
me.
like you're invincible, right? And
Yeah.
Right.
so I totally get it, man. And I totally get what you're saying as far as it's not an excuse, it's an explanation, right? And so
Right,
you
You're not off the hook
yeah,
we're
you're
if
not.
you
not off the hook,
understand
but
why.
there's something else, like, that can be explained to why you are doing said what you were doing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There's a bigger reason. It's not just,
100%.
you know.
And let me be clear. The reason why I think this is important for people to hear is because I've been successful in my sobriety. This stuff still comes up that I have to work through. Some days are easier than others. But again, having that little dose of knowledge softens it all for me to process in a way that I'm not absolutely beating myself up nor thinking about picking up a drink again. And I'm
Yeah,
hoping if there's any listeners out there, they can give themselves a little bit of grace, tap into that, and go, okay, this doesn't excuse the absolute horrible jackass of a person or behaviors that I
yeah,
was. It explains it. And now I need to change my behavior, 180, and prove that I am the person that I really am.
yeah.
Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense. It
Okay,
makes perfect sense.
good.
Yeah,
And
it definitely makes perfect sense.
and it's interesting that you bring this up because I know we talk off camera a lot. We collaborate on a lot of things and we talk about these things like this. And I know you feel the same, but there are times that I spend all day just thinking about the havoc I caused, the things I did, and it hurts to the very core. Still to this day, being clean as long as I have, going on five years, and all the good that Matt and I are doing with this podcast and the newsletter and the magazine, but it still doesn't erase the things I did, the havoc I caused, the life that I shifted or I altered. I mean, my ex, she came from different sides of the tracks. She came up not partying, not being involved with anything like this, and then I just catapulted her into this by association.
Yeah,
And it hurts to the very core sometimes to think back to some of the things I said, I did, the situations I put her in, and it's hard to think about it, but I kind of have to stop and tell myself like that's not I didn't do that because I wanted to. I didn't cause those fights to like go out and use because I wanted to. It's just there's a reason why, and it was
yeah,
because my brain was not right.
And I don't, and I say this, to everyone, whether in recovery or not. I I think we all often kind of reflect on things that we've done in the past, and either they catapult us to doing better and good things like what you and Matt are doing, and with me in coaching, or they leave us paralyzed. I
yeah,
And I said, I did air quotes, obviously, no disrespect, paralyzed in like this, oh my, like how is it that I did those things or behaved away or treated people this way and stay still, right? That happens. But our job with a lot of work and a lot of grace and understanding is we try and propel forward with change behavior and doing good, you know, and that goes for everyone out there, not just the people in recovery, you know, and then it just comes with experience and wisdom, and I'm gonna say age because I'm older.
We don't like to say old. We like to say seasoned. You're seasoned.
I'm so seasoned.
Yes.
I'm like an everything bagel.
Well, speaking of being seasoned, this episode is coming to a close, and Miss Lisa Hart, you are one of our favorite people. Obviously, your support to the magazine and to the show means everything to us. You took a chance on us because you saw something in us and in our mission and what we were doing. So we're forever grateful for that. How can people find Heart to Heart coaching and consulting? So that way, you know, if someone is going through whatever they're going through, they can connect with you. You're based out of Phoenix and California, so you go back and forth. But how can people find you?
Give us a shameless plug.
Yeah.
Let us all know.
My website, Heart to Heart coaching, Heart to Heart Life and Recovery Coaching, is kind of a funky email. It's heart, HART, to heart, HART .coach. And that's .coach is because Heart to Heart has been taken. So
yeah,
I'm on social media quite a bit.
You're dancing on TikTok. What are you talking about?
Yeah,
Instagram,
she's a smile flinger.
Yeah,
she makes people smile. I love it.
Heart to Heart coaching on TikTok, on Instagram, like
yes, I am. But if people want to know more about what I actually do, I really try and create a very, very safe place for people to come. Heart to Heart .coach is my website. It's not extensive. But that would be a great place if anyone was interested in knowing more about what I do.
Well, you were a blessing.
We'll put
your
your
friend of the
information
show,
in the descriptions. We'll put your information too, just in case they missed this part.
Okay.
Yeah. So you're a friend of the show, and we're so thankful to have you and have your support. And you're welcome back anytime.
Well, thanks, Matt. I'll see you for lunch in Coronado.
Please let me know. I'm down.
Now.
Okay. All right. Till next week, guys.
Thanks,
Take
everyone.
care.